Story 1. The listing called it the Alabaster House. The photos showed a stark minimalist space, all white walls, polished concrete floors, and sharp modern furniture. It was isolated, tucked away in a dense patch of forest a few hours from the city, and ridiculously cheap for a weekend getaway. My partner Liam and I were desperate for a break, for silence, for a place where the world couldn't reach us. We found it. I just wish we never had. Our host, Elias, met us at the door. He was a tall, unnervingly still man with pale eyes that seemed to absorb the light rather than reflect it. He didn't shake our hands. He just laid out the rules in a flat, monotone voice. The thermostats are automated. Do not touch them. The blinds are to be drawn after sunset. No exceptions. And please, be mindful of the art. He gestured vaguely at the walls. There was no art. Just empty white space. Liam shot me a look, a suppressed smirk that said, "This guy's a character." I didn't find it as amusing. The house felt clinical. The air was cold and carried a faint, antiseptic smell, like a hospital you can't quite remember. The first night was unsettling. The silence we'd craved was too absolute. It pressed in on you, a physical weight. Every creak of the floorboards, every sigh of the wind outside, sounded like an intrusion. Liam, ever the rationalist, fell asleep easily. I lay awake for hours, staring into the oppressive dark, feeling a profound sense of being watched. I told myself it was just the strangeness of a new place. The next day, while Liam was out for a walk, I started to notice things. Small things. There were no personal touches anywhere. No books. No stray magazines. No photographs. It was less like a home and more like a showroom, a meticulously crafted stage. Then I saw the scratches. They were high up on the bedroom doorframe, thin white lines marring the perfect white paint. They looked frantic. I ran my fingers over them. They weren't from a pet. They were too high, too deliberate. They looked like fingernail marks. A cold dread, sharp and sudden, trickled down my spine. My unease grew into a gnawing paranoia. The house was full of large, frameless mirrors. One in the living area, one in the hall, a full-length one on our bedroom wall. Elias had called them art. They were meant to create a sense of space, but they only seemed to amplify the emptiness. And as I stood before the one in the bedroom, a terrible, half-remembered urban legend surfaced in my mind. My hand trembled as I pulled out my phone. I pressed its screen flat against the mirror, my heart hammering against my ribs. Nothing. Just my own reflection, pale and wide-eyed. I was being ridiculous. But later that evening, in the bathroom, I tried again. The bathroom mirror was smaller, and the room was darker. I switched off the light, leaving only the dim glow from the hallway. I pressed my phone's flashlight to the glass, and the light didn't just bounce back. A sliver of it went through. My breath hitched. I moved the light around, my blood turning to ice water. Behind the glass, I could see it. A faint outline, a space. It wasn't a camera. It was worse. The mirror wasn't a mirror. It was a window. A one-way window into a narrow, dark observation corridor that ran behind the wall. I stumbled back, my hand clamped over my mouth to stifle a scream. Every mirror. The one in the hall, the one in the living room, the one by our bed. They were all windows. We were specimens in a sterile terrarium, and Elias was the collector. The rules: don't touch the thermostats, keep the blinds down. It was all about maintaining the perfect observation conditions. The scratches on the door weren't from someone trying to get in or out of the room. They were from someone trying to claw their way out of the walls. "Liam," I whispered, my voice shaking as he came back inside, rosy-cheeked from the cold. "We have to go. Now." He saw the look on my face and didn't argue. As he grabbed our car keys, I heard it. A faint creak. Not from our side of the house, but from within the walls. A floorboard groaning under a slow, deliberate weight. He was in there. He was watching us. He knew that we knew. We didn't pack. We fled, bursting out into the frigid night air and scrambling into the car. As Liam fumbled with the ignition, I risked one last look back at the alabaster house. A single light was on in the upstairs window, one that hadn't been on before, and in the center of the illuminated square, a tall, still silhouette stood watching us go. He had finally broken his own rule. The blinds were up. He wanted us to see him. He wanted us to know that our escape wasn't an oversight. It was an allowance. The observation was over. For now. We drove for an hour in petrified silence before either of us could speak. We reported it, of course. The police found nothing. The listing vanished from the site. But the memory remains, etched behind my eyes. I don't stay in places I don't know anymore. And sometimes, in the dead of night, when I catch my own reflection in a dark window, I still feel the chilling, absolute certainty that someone is on the other side, watching me from the cold. Story 2. The cabin was supposed to be our escape. Tucked away in the dense, pine-scented woods of northern Oregon, it was all Chloe and I had talked about for months. The Airbnb listing was perfect. Knotty pine walls, a stone fireplace, a sprawling deck overlooking a misty valley. The reviews were glowing, all 5 stars, praising the seclusion and the charm. They all mentioned the host, Arthur, calling him quirky and exceptionally attentive. We should have paid more attention to that last part. Arthur met us at the gravel driveway. He was a small, bird-like man with eyes that were far too bright and a smile that didn't quite reach them. He gave us a tour that felt less like a welcome and more like an inspection. He showed us how to work the thermostat, the tricky lock on the back door, the specific way to stack wood in the fireplace. "The house likes things a certain way," he said, his smile tightening. He looked at us not like a host looks at guests, but like a collector studying new acquisitions. The first night was unsettling, but in a way you can easily dismiss. The profound silence of the woods, the creak of settling timbers, the feeling of being watched that you always get in a strange place. I woke up once, convinced I saw a silhouette in the window, but when I blinked, it was gone. "Just the trees playing tricks," I whispered to a sleeping Chloe, my heart thudding against my ribs. The second day, things began to feel wrong. We went for a long hike and returned in the late afternoon, tired and splattered with mud. I'd left my watch on the bedside table on my side of the bed. When we came back, it was sitting on Chloe's side, perfectly centered on her pillow. "Did you move my watch?" I asked her. She shook her head, her brow furrowed. "No, why would I?" We brushed it off. Maybe I'd misremembered where I left it, but a cold knot of dread was tightening in my stomach. The feeling of being watched was no longer a vague paranoia. It felt active, present. That evening, as we sat by the fire, I saw it again, a definite flicker of movement outside the main window. A pale face, there and gone. I jumped up and threw open the door, but there was nothing but the whispering pines and the encroaching darkness. Chloe tried to calm me down, but she'd seen my face. The idyllic getaway was beginning to feel like a cage. We decided to leave in the morning, a day earlier than planned. We wouldn't make a fuss, just pack and go. The excuse of a family emergency was already prepared. As we packed in the pre-dawn gloom, my car keys slipped from my hand, clattering onto the floor and skittering under a heavy antique dresser in the bedroom. Swearing under my breath, I got on my hands and knees, using my phone's flashlight to search for them. That's when I saw it. Not the keys, but a small brass ring embedded in a floorboard just under the dresser's edge. It was out of place, too deliberate. Curiosity warred with the frantic urge to flee, and curiosity won. I pulled the ring. A section of the floorboard lifted with a soft, sucking sound. Beneath it was a dark, hollow space, and inside that space was a small, leather-bound box. My hands trembled as I lifted it out. Chloe came over, her eyes wide. "What is that?" I didn't answer. I opened the box. It was full of photographs. Dozens of them. The first few were of other couples, all smiling, all posing inside the cabin or on the deck. The previous guests. Creepy, but not terrifying. Then I dug deeper. My blood ran cold. Below the first layer were more photos of the same guests. But these were different. They were candid, intimate. A woman sleeping in the very bed we were in, her face peaceful and unaware. A man showering, the photo taken through a misted-up gap in the bathroom door. They were all taken from strange, hidden angles. Then we found the pictures of us. There was one of Chloe, reading on the sofa yesterday afternoon, her hair catching the light from the window. The photo was taken from outside that same window. There was one of me, asleep, my mouth slightly ajar, the picture taken from the foot of our bed. But the last photograph was the one that shattered our reality. It was a picture of Arthur. He was in our room, taken sometime in the dead of night. He was wearing my jacket, which I'd left on a chair. He was sitting in that chair, holding the book I was reading, his head tilted in a grotesque mimicry of my own posture. His face, illuminated by a sliver of moonlight, bore that same collector's smile. He wasn't just watching his guests, he was trying to become them. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. We left everything. The clothes, the food, the last shred of our sense of security. We grabbed our wallets and ran to the car, not daring to look back at the cabin. As I fumbled the key into the ignition, my eyes shot to the upstairs window,